So, you're dreaming of studying in Canada, but maybe you're a little worried by all the headlines about student cutbacks. You are not alone. In this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise to show you what's really changing with Canada's student policy for 2026.
It's the big question on everyone's mind, right? Is Canada closing its doors to international students? I mean, the news of a cap on numbers has definitely caused a wave of anxiety. But is the story really that simple? Let's find out.
All right, to get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. We'll start with those headline numbers. Then we'll peel back the layers to find the real story. We're going to uncover a surprising twist in approval rates, look at some new rules, and finally, break down what all of this means for you.
Okay, first up, the shrinking student target. Let's take a look at the numbers that are causing all this concern. So, the target for total study permits is, well, it's clearly trending downwards. You can see it drops from 485,000 in 2024 all the way to a projected 408,000 by 2026. Now, that's a 16% reduction over 2 years. And yeah, on the surface, that looks like a pretty significant cut. But, and this is a big but, those headline numbers don't tell the whole story. Not even close. To really understand what's going on, we need to look at the numbers behind the news and add some really crucial context. First, just a quick definition. You're going to hear the term IRCC a lot. This is just the official name for the Canadian government department that's making all these decisions about study permits and immigration policy. Simple as that. And here's where the plot thickens. First off, starting in 2026, students applying for master's or PhD programs, they won't even be counted under this cap. That's a huge detail. Second, Canada isn't even on track to hit its 2025 cap anyway. And third, and this is the real key, the approval rates for 2025 have been unusually, really low. And that last point about approval rates? Well, that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the single most important and frankly surprising part of this entire policy update. Get this. In the first half of this year, the approval rate for new study permits was just over 30%. Now, just to put that into perspective, during the same period last year, it was over 50%. So 2025 has been an exceptionally tough year for applicants. And here is the big twist. While the overall target number of students is going down, the IRCC itself projects the approval rate will jump to 58% in 2026. That is nearly double the current rate. Let that sink in for a second. The Canadian government is basically planning to approve a much higher percentage of applications. This really suggests a move away from a system that's just flooded with applications and has a low success rate toward one with fewer but higher quality applications and a more predictable outcome for students. Now, it's not all just about the numbers. The IRCC also gave us some important updates and clarifications. These are designed to make the process smoother for students who are already in or transitioning within the Canadian system. So, to understand these new rules, you got to know about the PAL, or Provincial Attestation Letter. All it is a letter of support you need from your chosen province before you can even apply for a study permit. It's a key piece of the new system.
So here are the two updates. First, if you finish high school in Canada and you're applying to a Canadian university, you can now start your university classes while you wait for your new permit to get finalized. That's a huge relief. Second, for anyone in a joint program that spans 2 different schools, there's finally some clarity. You only need one attestation letter from the province where you'll get your final degree. Both are just common sense changes that reduce a lot of stress and uncertainty.
Okay, so we've looked at the targets, the context, the wild approval rates, and the new rules. Let's bring it all together. What should you, as a prospective student, actually take away from all this?
You know, it really is a classic case of the headline versus the reality. The headlines all say Canada is cutting student numbers. But the reality? Well, for a qualified applicant, your chance of approval is actually set to nearly double. The goal here seems to be a much more predictable system. And don't forget, if you're aiming for a master's or a PhD, this cap won't even apply to you in 2026 anyway. So we're left with this final, kind of thought-provoking question. When you really look past the scary headlines, this policy shift seems less about closing the door and more about changing the doorway itself, making the path clearer and the outcome more certain for the students who choose to apply. It really feels like a move from quantity of applications to quality of the entire process.